finding it hard to start recording. Things often build up in my mind, and I think, okay, that's something I would like to vlog about, and then everything gets really scattered and jumbled when I hit record. It's like it's darker than it really is on camera. It was like, I think with the blinds and it's really overcast now as well. It's getting towards late afternoon, early evening, and so I'm feeling quite heavy and low right now. And I guess it's been mixed today. Early on, I was listening to some frequency music, and I was being extremely present while listening as well. I wasn't just listening in the background while doing something else. I was, for maybe a good hour and a half or so, I listened to a couple of types of different types of healing sort of music and things similar to that, and I felt very kind of calm and restorative. It was restorative to do. And just before recording, I did a vagus nerve exercise just to help maybe get rid of some tension, and can't remember exactly what it does, but I know it's it's a good thing. Really watched a video a couple of days ago when getting back into doing that, and but I can't remember the specifics of exactly what it does, but kind of, I guess, resets your something to do with nervous system, and the way of calming ourselves, and maybe it's releasing things as well. I think while doing it, there's a release happening as well, that the body responds. Anyway, I pushed myself to do that before recording. I guess the lowness sort of crept in like these overcast clouds. So it's a blue sky for a lot of the morning, and the lowness was probably from it's to do with writing, and my kind of recent, I don't know if I should use the word decision, or thoughts about it, was to, especially in the last couple of days, to put writing down, to take a break, or it feels more permanent this time than I've been through this before, with struggling to write, and I've questioned whether I should continue writing. And I write fiction, and I've written, I don't know, there's 4 or 5 novels and short stories. I've written a collection of poetry, written a screenplay as well, and I guess writing's been a big part of a lot of my life, especially as an adult, and my difficult time in my 20s. So kind of having thoughts about not being able to do it anymore is, it's a mix of things, really. The words upsetting comes to mind, but I'm not sure if that's correct. But maybe maybe I don't have to try and be specific with emotions or labeling. Maybe I can just say, okay, upset, sad, maybe angry, frustrated. Is there another word that's more severe than sad? I don't want to use depression as an adjective, because it feels like that's not the right use of that word. So in this latest sort of phase of writing, I've just been going to the library, and it's been, on rare occasion, it's been really nice where I've gone into some flows of writing, and but for the most part it's been painful. It's been painful to engage my mind to kind of do the craft of writing, especially writing novels, where there's a certain, I feel like you need a certain continuity and rhythm with writing a novel, and with me writing we're only being able to write drips and drabs, and that to be very painful, mentally painful, to force my mind to turn the cogs, to be creative, to engage in a story and really try and dig deep of what story do I want to tell, or what's the next scene going to be, and okay, what's this character's name, what are they going to be like, and all of that sometimes can usually spill out. It's now something I have to kind of sort of dig deep to excavate, and it's painful to do. And this has probably been going on for the last several years or more. I think at first it was a big shock, and I almost had perhaps a little bit of a breakdown when I was writing, or working on my writing and self-publication, so doing promoting as well for my work, like doing 10 hours a day or more, breaking up my day, and and now I've gotten to the point of where it's sort of getting painful and difficult to maintain and do, and it's maybe better that I, for the moment, use the words let it go or put it down. I'm not sure if it's temporary or permanent, I'm not sure, but even now it just feels, in these last couple of days, I just feel it's going to be a natural effect of that, because it's such a big purpose for me, even though there's been so many days where I've only written 2 sentences or a paragraph, and then the rest of the day I spend just managing my day, whether it's cooking and other things, but it remains as a purpose within me, and might turn the light on actually, because it's seems like it's really dark on the camera. Let me just take you with me. It's a really bright light though, it's like LED. It's like LEDs. I don't often put these lights on because it's so bright, and people can kind of see in a bit as well, so I'll maybe close the blinds a bit, and I'll try and set this up back up as well. Don't know if it's made a huge still feels like dim on the camera. I don't know why is that. Let's just get this guy set up again. There we go. So I started writing back in the early 2000s. I was in college, and I think maybe I've just got back into a little bit of reading, and then I was probably bored of what I was studying. I was studying IT, and I kind of just decided to write a novel. It wasn't, and I just did it. I just kind of, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I must have enjoyed the process. I was kind of looking up in the book of how to write dialogue and what's the grammar and punctuation. And so for the last perhaps 20 years, I've been doing that, or it's been a continuous sort of on my mind to write, to aspirations to get published, and now to kind of come to the point where it's just gradually been boiled down more and more until now. It's just painful to think about, really. And I feel like that's just there's some heaviness and sadness there to deal with. And maybe to acknowledge that it is a big deal. Of course, only I will understand this, because if I was to say to someone about not writing, it can come across really flippant, like I'm just not doing this little activity anymore. I'm going to do something else. And for me, it's like I wrote to help with my mental health. I channeled a lot of my energy, my emotions I just couldn't express in any other way, into my writing. So it's a really important outlet for me. And I went through a time, I guess a lot of my life I've spent sort of alone and emotionally alone. Like I've had sort of friends coming and going, but I've always kind of felt generally alone. Somehow just felt always on the outside of life and people. I think maybe writing and having that purpose sort of, it made up for that. Whether it's loneliness or feeling kind of on the outside of life, of how everyone else is living their life. So there's just, I don't know how I should be processing or dealing with that. On one level, it's, of course, I can be really present and mindful and just, okay, what am I going to do this part of the day and that part of the day? But I felt like this latter part, it's just the heaviness and darkness is creeping up, and it wants me almost to be depressed about it, to kind of go into a sort of depression about it. I can sense, wanting to sort of engage in behaviours that will be destructive, whether it's isolate myself from people, binge eating as well, come idea. Maybe it's something to talk about more in counselling next week as well. In my session of counselling, I did bring up this stuff of writing, and it was kind of just a thought, okay, let's just test not writing for that day, and that was Friday. That was yesterday actually. So today's Saturday, and it just feels very heavy and permanent. I kind of know in the back of my mind, even if I continue trying to write, it's never going to be as it was, and I've kind of, in a sense, lost it, really. It's not, it's just slipped out of my grasp in some ways. I've not been able to hold on to it, and when you add in the mental health stuff as well, that it gave me a lot of sort of purpose. It gave me a bit of accomplishment, and it took the edge off of, because I don't work, and sometimes with that there's going to be thoughts of just being useless or being a burden, or especially when you like talk to people and they say, "Oh, so what do you do? What are you doing?" And sometimes I could say, "Oh, I write." And sometimes it's okay to say, I struggle with my mental health and I'm dealing with that, but I could always say, yeah, I write, and I kind of made up for things, really. I think on one level, I've just, these last couple of days, the reason why it's been so heavy, I think, is because maybe the weight of writing and the aspirations, it's like for the last 20 years, it's been going around in my head in some respects. Not in a torturous way, but just in a way of, maybe it's just been so embedded there, and now there seems to be a bit more of a permanence that writing may, it's gradually going to leave me. And now it's almost like my mind is trying to get used to, okay, what do I do now with my life? And it's almost like when people go through really big experiences and things, and they suddenly come out and it's not there anymore. It's like, I've kind of got to sort of find out, okay, what am I going to do with my life? And of course, that question seems really restrictive just because of my health. So it's not okay. So I can just sort of, pick and choose things. I think a lot of the problem is that the symptom of anhedonia, which I really relate to, is usually, it's been very strong. So I think the definition of that is where you just, I guess a general word is you don't enjoy things. It's hard to find enjoyment in things. And I think writing, I've not enjoyed it for a long time, but there's been a small drop of fulfillment that's kind of kept me going. And of course the commitment and the longevity I've given writing, so it's just been that sort of familiarity. And for this sort of second half of the day, I've just been sort of watching some stuff, streaming. I watched a movie, 127 Hours, which was a bit of a sort of harrowing movie to watch, actually. I was midway through it thinking, feeling a bit anxious, and it was obviously, feeling for the character, and it's a true story as well. So I realised, someone went through this, and it was a lot to watch, a bit emotional. But yeah, I kind of just don't know what else to do, really. And maybe part of me was just telling myself, maybe this is okay just to watch stuff right now, like, all the stuff I just talked about. It's maybe I just need to just do that, I guess, just to try and go with the flow of things. Like I felt like I did that in the beginning of today, where just listening to the frequency. I did that yesterday as well. It feels like part of me, maybe there's a bit of space opened up because I'm not focused on writing. I feel, okay, let's focus on a bit of healing and frequency music, and but yeah, I think things just feel so inadequate now, and I feel inadequate, I think, on one level. On another level, of course, I'm trying to be sort of present in the present moment, which is you come away from all of that stuff. I won't go too deep into the spiritual stuff, but and I think with the journey of writing, it reminds me of the journey of religion as well. I was kind of born into a religion and practiced that for all of my life until, 4 years ago, where it became too painful or too difficult for my mental health to continue that. So, and I still, in some ways coming to terms with that. It feels like I can't come to terms with it on a conscious level. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's very painful. But on a maybe deeper level, there's currents shifting, and something's happening there that's maybe helping with that. But it just feels like a slow process, and I have to deal with those currents shifting in the depths. I have to, like, it affects the surface. It affects how maybe not in a really sharp way, but it does. And now it's almost like a parallel with writing. That's become too painful to do because of my mental health. So two big things, two very purposeful things to give me like some direction and purpose. Now those are kind of gone, and it just feels, maybe it opens me up to feeling a lot more vulnerable now, because it feels like I could channel a lot into that. Like with religion, I could have, just do more religious practices and try and grow in that. And same with writing, I could, persevere and finish the novel I'm working on, and do a short story, or work on something else, or send it off to an agent. So maybe it's understandable that I'm feeling this way right now, fresh from sort of maybe coming to terms that I might be done with writing, or not be able to continue writing. So maybe I need to allow perhaps some time for that to settle. I'm doing my best to not just go into reaction mode and trying to feel sorry for myself that this happened to me and then this happened. And I feel like the spiritual sort of teachings help a lot with that, because it kind of it gets to the root of that, and so you don't sort of usually, so it kind of saves a lot of suffering just going through that. But I can feel it's on the surface, it wants me to kind of engage in those thoughts, and with that, of course, destructive behaviors. So I'm kind of doing my best to hold back that tide a little bit, or not to succumb to it. And it's difficult, because it feels like there's not a huge amount of motivation to not do that sometimes. Because I just feel tired with these symptoms. Tired, I feel like in some ways depression's affected most of my life since I was probably in my early teens. There was difficulties at home in my family environment. But easily for the last 10 plus years, it's been sort of in that sort of severity, or severe, I would say, and maybe that's understandable as well, because with this stuff of writing, it's now sort of almost, there's going to be a reaction to that, and if depression is there, then that's going to kind of want to react. That's sort of the ingredients that's in me at the moment, the symptoms of it, at least in my mind. So I'm just doing everything I can to sort of give myself some space, and not to fall into the deep end of things, where I kind of want to react and act out, and it's painful. I know that'll probably give me some release in some way, but also it's destructive, and there'll be consequences of that in many, many different levels. But it's painful to remain sort of in the space I'm in. The place of non-reaction. And I'm worried that now maybe sort of depression will become a bit more intense now, because I feel like that the writing offset a lot of the depression it gave, where sort of it got me out of that sort of inertia state of just not moving and staying inside all the time. Like, it got me to the library and planned, a lot of So I'm kind of worried now, what am I going to do to not fall into a deeper depression? And I'm not sure what the answer is, because I can't just jump into another activity, because nothing's coming to mind that I feel like, and feeling kind of unwell as much as I do, it's like it feels like everything is just painful to do, painful to process in my mind. So right now, I'm just, maybe it's okay not to know what to do, and maybe it's okay to watch some movies and not be hard on myself. And I feel like part of that mentality of what I've had, of writing, and even on days, weeks, or months that I haven't written much, it was kind of always there. So it's always like, okay, even though I'm watching a movie now and not able to write, I can get back on and do it tomorrow and start building that work ethic again and things. But now it's just, if I watch stuff or binge stuff, it's not going to be kind of that bounce back. I'm not actually, I haven't really, I think, it's hard to know what the right thing to do is now, whether it's okay to just go about these today and yesterday, just keep doing that, really. And maybe that's what I need to do, is just sort of, I know another aspect of it is just, the reason why I've decided to kind of having to put down writing is to do things that don't cause me more pain and distress. So it's kind of now almost discovering a new way to live a little bit, just with activities and things. I don't know how that looks, whether that changes from day to day, or right now there's sort of there's some desire to work on some healing and give me some calm, and so I've kind of been doing the frequency music, listening to that, alongside being really present while listening. So we call that meditation as well. Then kind of the second half of the day or afternoon, I kind of just been watching stuff, which has been comforting as well. And there's always maybe a critical part of me thinking, okay, is that the right thing? Is that the best use of your time? Should you be doing something more productive and useful? But almost feels like I need someone's permission or someone's perspective to say, yeah, it's okay you doing that. Or especially, if it's like someone who's like maybe trained in some way, or some kind of qualifications or something for mental health that say, yeah, you're on the right track, this is okay to do that. So on the one hand, I'm trying not to sort of engage in that narrative of, okay, you've had to give up writing, and it's another thing you've had to give up, and it was a big part of your life. So I'm trying not to engage in it in a sort of complaining way, and a story of something that's happened. I've gone through all of this, and on one level there's an acknowledgement of it, so there's no sort of suppression. I'm not just belittling it. I'm trying to meet it where it is, to meet my feelings where they are, not sort of exacerbate them with toxic thoughts and negative thoughts, which are very easily done, and often, a lot of the time, people don't notice that it's happening. And again, going back to the word perspective, it's hard to know if I'm making a bigger deal of this than it really is, or it doesn't feel like I am. It feels like maybe that's just for me to decide, because it's what's a big deal to one person may not be to another. So I need to kind of maybe look at my own feelings towards it, and I sense it's a big deal, a big part of my life, an important, very important therapeutic activity that's no longer available to me, potentially, likely, and a time in my life where each day is a challenge and a struggle. Just on other news, with this volunteer role, I've had to fill out another, so I filled out a profile that got approved. I think that was just maybe, probably didn't really an approval process, it's just, it doesn't seem like it is, because I got when I registered with this site, they immediately said it's been approved, so I'm not even sure if someone read it, and now I've had to register interest with this voluntary role. I think that's how it works, so you can't just apply and get it. It's kind of, I think, register interest first, and then maybe there'd be an application after that, and a potential sort of interview maybe. And I feel really uncertain about this. This is a befriending role where you work with sort of dementia patients or people who suffer with dementia and help them. And I guess I wrote a message to register interest, which is I think the first step I need to do, and I wrote just, what else does it involve, what is is it just having a conversation with them, or doing activities, or how does that work? But so that's a tiny bit of light there, even though it's scary and I'm not sure if it's something I can cope with to do, and I'm also worried about doing it and having a big reaction, and then that adding to everything else, at a time of quite a lot of vulnerability. But right now, it's in the process of I've done my part. I'm just waiting on them, and that's another direction that my life is moving in. I guess a part of me gets fulfillment in trying to be there for people, whether it's listening or trying to help in any way I can. That's something I feel like I can still do. Of course, I've got to manage my energy and that kind of stuff. And so I thought maybe I can channel that with volunteer work and maybe see where that goes. If there's anything that grows into anything else that may support me financially, or if there's anything like that down the line. So yeah, okay. I'm going to probably just watch some more TV tonight, I think. I feel like maybe that's comforting, and I haven't gone out today, and I'm trying not to be hard on myself with that. Yesterday, for most of the day, I didn't go out either. I had to go to the doctor's surgery in the morning just for my IBS, so I had to sort of deal with that. And then I had counselling, which I did outside, so I did have a morning sort of walk to the doctor's surgery and back, but for the rest of the day I stayed in, and maybe that's okay as well. Maybe it's okay, and tomorrow I can try and sort of get some more fresh air again. And just maybe continue sort of processing and adjusting to having this void now in my mind, and the psychological impact of not having this purpose, and of maybe there's some, I don't know if mourning's too much of a heavy word, doesn't feel right, but there's some maybe processing about letting this go, and maybe see how the next days go. Tomorrow's Sunday, so it kind of feels like a day that's okay. To the weekend has a certain vibration to it, I feel, where if I'm not as productive, it's okay. So weekends still feel like it's a day to kind of rest and take things easy. So but yeah, I think on the coming days I'm going to notice or have to adjust and deal with me, not scheduling my days of going to the library and having that sort of routine of that. So maybe I need to figure out something else, and I think maybe those questions will be answered as the days happen, versus doing it all in my head now. Like, sort of as those days come and I don't know what to do, and maybe something will come up to, okay, this is another sort of activity you can do, not necessarily to replace it, but to sort of fill my day a bit and to give me a bit of routine. Even though I struggle with routine, but some kind of light, something light maybe. I feel like that's definitely important. I feel like even though it's okay right now, perhaps to sort of stay in and do the frequency and sort of watch TV and movies, like I feel like long term that's just going to be not good for me to do. It's just a lot of unknowns really, and maybe it's too much to think about right now. Just in that stage of just a bit of free falling maybe, or maybe it's almost maybe loss is a better word than mourning, because I guess writing became like a very close companion, especially in times when I've been alone or emotionally alone. It's kind of kept me sane, kind of entering a world and characters and purpose as well. No, that feels like it's gone. Feels like I'm repeating myself now, so I should end this vlog. So I'm going to just find something to watch this evening and try to get to bed on time. Try and manage my sleep. Do myself a favour with that. Food's been difficult still with IBS, so I'm just having to try different things to see if I can tolerate them. This evening I was thinking of just having some white rice with some seasoning on it. For lunch I had some like falafel with some white bread, so I'm hoping my stomach tolerates that and I don't get any cramping and pain. But the idea of white rice just feels so bland and boring, and it just feels like there's a block there for me to just make that. It just feels so, it just doesn't feel nice to have. But maybe, especially now when I feel like I want to binge on food or have something comforting to eat, and white rice is not that. I was tempted to kind of go out and get something, which I don't know if I still. It's starting to rain as well, which might put me off. But it would be nice to maybe get a bit of fresh air, but maybe I don't have to like get something crazy and healthy, but just something that would just be nice, and maybe in a small quantity. I should go. This vlog was really difficult. It doesn't feel like thought it would. I guess it's always going to be a bit difficult to explain these big subjects and big things, and I struggle to explain simple things and express my feelings in that way. So maybe that's how it is, and that's okay.